Okay, thank you for certainly coming. Game week, excited to finally be here. Weather's kind of broken a little bit for us. We've been able to get out pretty consistently over the last week and a half to 2 weeks, and got some good work in. Excited about the group. I will say this has been, since the shutdown, this has been, I guess you would say we're a little bit back to normalcy, and can't believe how quickly the season has come upon us this year. As we get a little bit back into normalcy, you forget how much the last season kind of drug out, just dealing with so many of the protocols. But for the most part, we're very healthy, and we're ready to go. Obviously, return some really, really good pieces that we're super excited about. And then, obviously the addition of some newcomers that we're super excited about, but we got to, get our legs underneath us a little bit. So, but that being said, there's nothing like opening up and nothing like getting ready to play.
What's kind of the brief like coming off the last season, the success you guys had, and how did that kind of inform the offseason for you heading in?
Well, I think that it certainly was a reminder of where we want the program to be. Certainly was a reminder of how much fun a run like that can be, and what you want to strive for. But at the same time, I think very quickly we have 22 newcomers, and so to sit there and talk about last year a lot when they don't really have much to build off of from that year, would be a waste of a lot of time, to be quite honest with you. And so we just quickly had to, though we're very proud of what went on last year, very proud of that group. You got to quickly turn the page and get to the point where this is a new team. This is a team that's got to find its own way to win. It has nothing to do with last year's team, and really just kind of build from there. But it's you just want to keep drawing from those experiences. Is really what you want to do as for a coach and your returning players. You're hoping that they draw from those experiences.
You mentioned those newcomers. I know, basically the half the roster is new. How do you kind of go about reshaping, as far as bringing in transfers and also obviously the rushing too?
Yeah, that's a great question, because this started, kind of reshaping this roster kind of started 2 years ago when the shutdown initially occurred, because you didn't know who would be coming back. You didn't know if they were going to get a fifth year. We didn't know what the NCAA was going to roll. We didn't know how they were going to roll on extending players' careers and their time frames. And so a lot of that kind of came into, 2 years ago when you started putting this together. And then we weren't able to see players. We weren't allowed to go out and recruit at all. So we were very, very patient. One thing that we did, we didn't rush into signing a bunch of guys early and signing guys that we hadn't seen. We relied back on the relationships of people that we trusted. We knew we had a good core returning to us, and so I wanted to stay high school heavy as much as possible and continue to develop in the program, continue to have a strong core in the program, because I felt pretty good about where we were as far as the returning players who were developing in the program. And so, that was really how we kind of put it together. It's, I wouldn't sit here and say that the end result met the vision. It had to change and continue to grow and continue to morph, and it still is as we look into next year's. But I'm excited about the group that's here, excited about the newcomers who are here. One thing you got to remember is they haven't played much in the last 2 to 3 years, and so you have guys who might be 21 years old, but came out in their freshman year of college and that didn't have a season, and then last year had a broken up season. You have high school players who really haven't played much of their back end of their high school career. So you have to be very, very patient with what's going on.
Well, what's kind of number one then this all season, just kind of building those newcomers into the returning core that you have?
Well, I think our team does that on their own a lot. Okay, just the culture of our returning players, our older players, the way they go about accepting those groups right away, and very quickly, these guys set a tone that this is how we do things. This is the way we go about our work. And if you can't keep up or not fully bought in, you're going to fall behind very, very quickly. A big piece of it to us was getting the whole team back together. We were allowed to assemble as a group much more this year. And I think that's huge. You know, getting into the weight room as a full team, getting into conditioning as a full team, being in the locker room as a full team. All those things, though they seem very small on the outside, but when you're doing them day after day after day, hour after hour, you don't realize how much time you actually spend together. And I would think of the shutdown, you know, and all the rules that COVID put in place over the last 2 years. Those are the things for me I missed the most. I just missed being in the locker room with the team. I missed being at weights with the team. I missed just seeing the team and just a 5-second conversation that happened as they passed by you. Those are the things for me that I really missed when all the protocols were in place. So I think it started there, and then from there, we needed to put them in situations to compete and struggle as much as possible. We needed to figure out really, really quickly how we were going to face adversity and how we were going to do that together and let leadership start to emerge. And we did that very quickly in the fall, and I think it's paying off right now. Now, we haven't even faced anything tough yet this year. You know, the competition starts Friday, but hopefully we're somewhat prepared for it.
Tyler, what do you do for an encore after the season you had?
Just try and get better every day, honestly. Just try and repeat it. We sit down at the end of our season meetings. We go through goals and just try and repeat it, take it day by day, and just stick to the process.
So what are your specific goals then after, and did any of last year's success for you individually come as
A little bit of a surprise. Did you know, that it would come that early in your career?
Probably that early in the career, it did surprise me a little bit, but just kind of the work I put in, I feel like it just all came together at one point. But I'm not really a big goal setter, honestly. I just try and build off every year and just take it day by day.
Now, you guys were both part of last year, and now you might have been thrown into a veteran role sooner than you might have anticipated. So how do you embrace something like that and bringing all the young guys and the new guys that Coach talked about along and saying, okay, this is what we can do and this is what, as he said, is now more of what we expect?
So, I mean, you talk about the veteran role, and that's kind of interesting because we had seniors, fifth years, and sixth years last year. So we were still, I mean, it felt like I was a freshman still. But, I mean, after they all left, we had to step up. We know what we have to do. We've seen those guys be the veterans for the long time now. So they've pretty much given us the path to just keep doing what they've done. I mean, that's a winning formula too. So as long as we, keep that up, I think we'll be fine. I mean, you talk about the chemistry too of the team. I mean, that's been no problem for us. I mean, we're seeing each other every day, having fun, going to work together, going to war together, and we know this season's going to be tough. So we're excited. So I'm ready to go.
Are you guys, last year with all the uncertainty surrounding COVID and scheduling and who might be available, who might not be available, this year, at least we'd like to think that we're so much further past that. How much, I don't want to say how much of a relief, but how much, can you focus more on baseball now without having that over your heads like you might have last year?
Honestly, last year it didn't really faze us a whole lot. We just kind of stuck to it. People did go down. Next man stepped up. We were always at work, even if we did have an off day or a quick shutdown. We were always in the weight room. At my house, we have a weight room in the garage, so people would come, we'd lift. So there really wasn't really a big stop, I would say. So just sticking to that process, and now kind of the relief is kind of nice to have.
I think too, part of that is, as much as there was pressures in certain scenarios last year, the baseball decisions there wasn't a lot of pressure on that because you almost felt like that was, if you were playing that day, it was like, oh, okay, we're in house money. You know what I mean? And so you get the call on the way to work, hey, so-and-so's out and he's contacted this guy. It was just kind of like, okay. It just, like a lot of those, like all the things that we would worry about that would drive a head coach absolutely crazy, last year they didn't panic us nearly as much. Now this year, you hope you take that perspective with you, right? Like you hope you've learned from that, and that's one of my big goals is that I've learned from, learned from the COVID shutdown that every time a guy breaks a nail or pulls a hamstring. It's not the end of the world, and I need to quit acting like it is the end of the world. And so that's the piece I hope that the team takes with them this year is that there's going to be adversity, things are going to happen, and you know what, if you can keep a very even kill, so what mentality to it, next guy up. I hope we learned that last year as a group, as a university, as society, and we can continue to use that this year.
Coach, in regards to your scheduling, you faced some really heavy hitters, that are ranked in the top 25 polls, like Ole Miss, VCU, ODU. What are your thoughts on scheduling some top teams in the NCAA?
Yeah, well, I have no one to blame but myself on that. I don't know what I was thinking. That's just, when you were scheduling 2 or 3 years out, right? And so you were putting this schedule together at a time in the middle of COVID, and at that time, it was hard to schedule people because of just no one wanted to talk about what was going to happen 2 years from now. They were trying to talk about what was going to happen 20 minutes from now. So programs that would talk about the future were very, very high-end programs. Again, those are like playing in those environments. The expectation of this program is to play in the NCAA tournament every year, and to do that, you have to be in those type of settings. I firmly believe that, and I really believe, I'm a huge believer of when these guys were thinking about playing college baseball, they weren't thinking about playing at 9 a.m. in front of nobody. They were thinking about playing in the best and the biggest, brightest settings they could play in. And these guys these athletes want to test themselves, and they want to play the best teams in the country. And that's where I want this program to be, and that's where we all want this program to be. And so we're not going to duck, from it. There's going to be, of these games, we will win some of them. There will be games that we get our butts kicked in, probably, okay? That could happen if we played the worst schedule in the country or the best, okay? And so for me, you got to go out and test yourself. We're all competitors. That's why we want to do it. The scheduling will be tough. These guys are aware of it. But, I think that's why you come to play. And you use those challenges as, that is the way. You turn the challenge into the opportunity. And if you have that type of growth mindset, then you'll be on the good end of a couple of those too.
Coach, last year, the pitching kind of came along as the season went along, and that obviously kind of helped spur you to the win streak. Yep. At this point, heading in, is one ahead of the other as far as pitching versus the lineup?
Well, I wouldn't say one is ahead, and we've had a lot of changes in the program. We've lost some staff. We have a new pitching coach, and Seth Cutler-Volz has come in. He played here, coached here in the past, has come back here. So kind of implementing his mindset with the team while really not trying to make overall changes to the culture. I would tell you that the pitching has more returners, so I wouldn't say they're ahead. There's just more. There's not as many questions, right? In that, in the lineup we have about 6 newcomers into the lineup, and so trying to figure out how that lineup's going to flow, who's going to play where, who's going to come in late for defensive purposes, who's going to pitch hit, who's going to base run. There's a lot of questions we got to get answered from that standpoint. So I'm hoping that the pitching staff can, pick up where it left off last year. I think consistency is where we want that pitching staff this year. That would be what I see from it right now. We seem to be a little bit more consistent. Maybe not as high end, but we're not as low end. We're very, very consistent, and we trust. There's about 12 guys we really, really trust right now, which is a good piece.
What is kind of your focus heading in? It's kind of leader of the pen, kind of build off last year, leading the team in saves. Like, what's kind of your number one areas heading into this year?
Going into this year, I think just looking back at last year, seeing what worked for us, and just continuing to do that. Like Stiff said, we got a new pitching coach, and we're all bought into what his program is. We're loving what he's bringing to the table, like super positive from all aspects. I mean, I think everybody's just excited at this point to go out there and fill up the zone. Like, people can't wait to get out there and start getting dudes out, helping the team, getting wins. I mean, anybody can do anything. We expect them to do that at any time. So I'm just excited to see what we got.
Did you know Seth before he was named the coach?
No, I didn't.
How long did it take you to figure out what he did here? Because his name is kind of, you open the record book and it's in there a couple of times.
I mean, I honestly, no diss on him. I had no clue until Stiff brought it up. So once he brought up the fact that he pitched here. I mean, we all look back to see what he did and saw him, like you said, record books everywhere. So, I mean, it was fun to see, have somebody back like that who's had success in the program before to teach us. So.
And then the next day, when you go listen to what he has to tell you, everybody's ears are up,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Tyler, for you, coming off last season, heading to the summer, what were you looking for from your summer baseball experience? How'd you land in the Vipers, and how'd you kind of continue to grow in the summer? Leading that league in RBIs, top of the league in home runs. Like, how did that kind of continue your progression over the summer?
So one day I was just sitting on the couch and Coach Stifler called me and asked me if I wanted to play in the Cape Cod, and that's kind of like every college baseball player's dream. So I was just really excited to go down there summer, met a lot of new guys, just kind of being a part of that team. It was a little bit of a different summer ball experience than I've ever had because you were kind of stuck with them. It was like a whole new college team. You didn't just go see them for 2 hours a day and then leave and not see them for like another 3 days. You were just stuck with them probably 12 hours a day. So it was a really cool experience to have.
Where do you feel you're at now, and then heading into this year? And you mentioned not necessarily a goal setter specifically, but is there anything in particular you want to make sure you kind of build on off of last year?
Just trying to get better, honestly. Having better pitch recognition, taking good at bats, just trying to do whatever I can for the team, honestly. My 1/9 that Coach Stiff always mentions.
How are you going to adjust to their adjustments to you, because you're going to be pitched differently this year based on what you did? What are you anticipating?
I kind of hit that last year a little bit. I kind of got hot a little early and then kind of fell off a little bit and kind of had to go back and kind of reevaluate myself and kind of how pitchers would pitch. Sat down, watched video, got pitcher tendencies, tried to stay consistent with my swing. So I'll probably try and implement that a lot this year, just looking at video and kind of seeing how pitchers will throw in different situations, different counts.
What did you find was the number one thing they did different against you in season?
Probably in season, it kind of helped me a lot, honestly, last year, hitting in front of Liam Hibbets and Brandon Henson and all of them, because I kind of got attacked a little more, I would say, than usual sometimes, just because they would have to pitch to them and not pitch around me a whole lot. So just trying to take good at bats, stick to the approach, just kind of do that every day and see what happens.
How do you maybe compartmentalize, some of the draft attention you've gotten as well? Like number 48 on the perfect game list, 61 on the D1 baseball list. Like, what is that process been like aside getting ready for this year, just kind of knowing that's maybe down the road for you later this year?
I try not to look at it a whole lot because that's not really important right now. What's important is Friday and then kind of the rest of the season leading up.
Okay, kind of extend on that, Coach. How do you kind of maybe help a player get through that, knowing that that's kind of down the road for them, and kind of keep that out of mind during the season?
Yeah, we talk a lot about, and I'll touch on a few questions you asked about, how are we going to, how is he going to adapt to pitchers knowing who he is now and dealing with the draft. And like he said, we talk a lot about, doing your piece of the lineup. He's 1/9 of our lineup and what we need him to do. And we need him to take his walks when he gets them this year, and because he needs to be selective. He needs to be able to put the at-bats together, and there's going to be times where we need the big hit, but he's got to stay patient. He's got to stay within himself. And I think that's the other thing we talk about in our program is consistently getting better, okay? Tyler getting drafted is not the goal. We want Tyler to play in the big leagues, and then once he gets to the big leagues, we want him to play in the big leagues for 10 years. And to do that, you have to have a mindset of getting a little bit better every day, and that's with all of our players. Winning this amount of games or winning the regular season, those aren't the goals. We want to continue to get better, continue to push, whether it's the individual or the team. And one of the big things that I talked to Tyler first, and I talked to all the team about, teammate first. If you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling stress, think about somebody else for a couple minutes, and very quickly, everything will come back to you'll become much more centered. He has a great routine with Coach Witten. They understand. Coach Witten understands his swing very, very well. He'll be able to keep him in that routine. We anticipate there's going to be frustration at times and those types of things. But as long as he continues to be teammate first, and that's one thing Tyler has always been, is teammate first. And, you know, I tell people all the time, Tyler gets more excited about other guys hitting home runs than he does himself. And, you know, so that is something that we're just going to stay on. And, you know, what happens in the draft, he really has no say in what happens in the draft. All he has is the only thing he has saying is how he prepares himself, how he gets himself ready, how he takes his at bats, how focused he is on the game, and no one does it better than him. He does a really, really good job of that, and so I'm very, very proud. You know, one of the things I'm most proud of him is I challenged him to go get better on defense over this past year when he went up to the Cape, and I said, I want you to really, really. It's easy for everyone to look at your bat. But to be a complete player, I want you to stay at third base. I think it helps you in pro ball. And I challenge his defense, and that is the area for me right now where he has made the most growth to becoming a complete player is his defense, and I'm really proud of him for that.
For Evan and Tyler, you talked about last season, but kind of specific moment, you know, go back to getting those 8-10 title rings. Like, what was that like, and how did that maybe continue to motivate you heading into this year? Just like getting that homer, like, okay, we accomplished this, let's try to get an homer.
I mean, I just know we were out on the field together when those final outs were made. So, I mean, that was a feeling like no other, and I want to do it again for sure. So anything I can do, we can do to get back to that, go back to the championship, win another ring. I mean, I'm ready to do it because that was something I've wanted to do since I got here, and that was like the wish I made freshman year in orientation. They tell you to rub the horns, make a wish, and just to get an A10 ring. We got one, so I want to get another one real bad.
Tom Brady always says the best one's the next one, so that's kind of the goal for us. We're a winning program, and kind of that's the highest goal, and that's pretty much the only thing on our mind at this point.
Have you ever used a wooden bat as much as you did last summer?
Yes. Now in college, pretty much all summer ball is wood bat. So
Yeah, I know, but I mean before that.
yes, sir. In high school, I would always use wood bats in the summertime.
Okay, but not as much in competition. Well, in the summer, but not. I mean, we make a big deal out of the difference between the two. What is the biggest difference?
Just hitting the sweet spot. Honestly, you can't really get cheated with a wood bat a whole lot. You get hit on the hands, your bat's gonna break. You get hit on the hands with a metal bat, you got a chance of getting a hit or maybe even hitting one out.
I'm going to ask general question for all three. What kind of excites you most about this group heading in?
I would say it's a new group. You never know what you're gonna get. Last year, going down at G-Dub, losing 3 or 4 to them, you never really knew what was going to happen next, and 22-game win streak came out of it. So we're just excited to see what this group has to offer.
Yeah, like you said, we're a new group. I mean, we've seen what we can do in inter squads and all that, but once it's the season, it's kind of a different beast. So, I mean, it'll be exciting to see what the guys can do. I mean, because we've seen glimpses of it so far, and hopefully they can continue to do that. So I'm excited to see what the rest of the team can do as well.
Yeah, for me, it's just the new energy. See what's next for the program. You know, to be honest with you, we got as much as I love last year's team, and they did their piece, and they have moved on, and it's exciting to have, you know, new pieces and that new energy. And so I'm just ready to get going and, you know, start working with these guys. I mean, I know we've been working for the last 9 months, but when you get in the games, it's different, you know, and start getting a chance to watch them through their good times and their struggles, and so just building off that new energy and what's next for the program.